This edition of Mac Voices is sponsored by Smile, the makers of the brand new PDF Pen Scan Plus for iPhone and iPad, as well as PDF Pen, PDF Pen Pro, PDF Pen for iPhone, PDF Pen for iPad, Text Expander Touch, and Disc Label. Find out more about all their great products at smilesoftware.com. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the Talk of the Mac community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, every year we talk to a number of the organizers of different conferences, different events in the Mac space, and I always look forward to talking to Neil Ticktin of MacTech. He is the guy that puts them all together. He's like a perpetual motion machine. It's kind of amazing everything that he puts together, because he just doesn't put together one event. He puts together a series of events all over the country throughout the year. And here to tell us about this year's set of events, Mr. Neil Ticktin. Neil, it's great to see you.
And you as well, Chuck. I always enjoy coming on Mac Voices.
Yeah, it's always good. And I got to tell you, Neil, every year it seems like not only do you have something new, but you just have something more. It just keeps growing.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you talk about me being a perpetual motion machine. And of course, for many people, I am the face of MacTech, and a lot of people realize that I'm part of MacTech in that way. But there's a team of people, all kinds of people, at part of the MacTech office, our writers, our staff, our speakers, people all over the place that are involved with MacTech in one form or another. And it's really a tribute to them when you say that I look like a perpetual motion machine, because they're the ones that make me look good. And I'm glad to see that. So, but yeah, we've been having a lot of fun in there. The magazine is headed into its 30th year. We're the second longest running Apple publication for Mac, iOS, whatever you want to call it these days, publication that's out there. And we've got of course, the print version going really well, and actually a lot of people doing that and coming back to print because of the tactile experience that it is. And of course, the iPad version is going really well, and people are enjoying that. We've got a great reader experience there as well. The websites are, over 100,000 pages of content that's there, a lot of kind of news and more timely stuff there, and the longer read and printed on the iPad, so that's all well. And then over the last few years, what we've done a great deal of, and I think that's what you're talking about with the growth that we've had, that's a little bit more visible to people sometimes, is what we're doing with our events. In 2010, somebody came to us, it was our executive editor, said, hey, we've been talking about doing a MacTech event all this time, and Ed's always been kind of on that, and what do you think? And so we talked about it internally, and we went for it. And 5 months later, which is a ridiculously short period of time, we launched MacTech Conference, and it went really, really well. The kind of event that I could just be so proud of our entire team all the way to the core. And from there, we added MacTech boot camps. We added our MacTech In-Depth series. CES asked us to do a full day of Apple content at the last year's event. And then we've added to it things like the Microsoft Office for Mac accreditation program, which I'll come back to in a minute. And our boot camp series just has been going and going. So kind of towards the end of the year, took a little stock. What have we been doing? What's been interesting? And then how have we impacted people and whatnot? And I realized, well, we've done 39 events in 16 cities with over 225 unique speakers for over 475 sessions. There have been over 3,500 people that have come to us from 48 states and 35 countries. And my favorite statistic, we have had served over 18,000 food servings at the event.
Absolutely a critical part of any conference.
Well, certainly a critical part of a MacTech event and whatnot. We take food pretty seriously. We're fortunate enough to have an event that's designed to do exactly that, and it's been a great part of the experience, and I think it's something people look forward to from a MacTech event. So this year, we have a number of new cities. We're taking MacTech Bootcamp on the road again, not in this order, but we are going to Seattle, San Francisco, Austin, Chicago, Denver, Boston, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, and Toronto. And it's been a ton of fun to kind of plot the roadmap out on this as we ping pong around the country and do this. We've got some sensational speakers. We have a lot of great content coming at it. It's all completely new content. So even somebody who's been to a MacTech boot camp in the past or one of the in-depth series, they definitely would get something out of MacTech Boot Camp 3, as we call it. And then at the end of the year, in November, we'll have MacTech Conference 2014, which is our annual international event where people come to us from all over the world. And it's a phenomenal event as well. We had a ton of fun of that in this last November. But boot camp is what's coming up right now. And our next event is, first one is February 12th in Seattle. And we're going to be talking about things like PKI and encryption and certificates and all the complexities that go along with that, trying to get people to really understand what's going on because it's becoming more and more important in this security-oriented world that we need to have that kind of stuff down. We're going to be talking again about the continually evolving world of Apple IDs. It's quite the maze out there. It's hard for support people to deal with it, and we have some great insight and some great ways of helping people get through the Apple ID problems, and also just helping them to understand what they can and can't do. We're going to be talking about profiles and managing mobile devices. We're going to be talking about deployment practices for managing mobile devices and desktop machines. We've got a great session on Wi-Fi, all kinds of interesting information about how to design a Wi-Fi network, how to troubleshoot a Wi-Fi network. Some of the rules of thumb that so many of us have learned in the past, we're now finding out are not the best way to go about it, and that there are better ways to do Wi-Fi. We're going to have a great session on backups and storage, and as well as how to use Office for Mac as a collaboration tool, and also how it stacks up against other collaboration tools that are out there. So that's all really interesting. And then the last two sessions, just to cap off this whole thing of security that we're doing, is these two security sessions. There's security keeping them out and security letting them in, because you have to do both in this environment out there to really have a good handle on it. So that's our lineup for 2014. Great content that has been really contributed to. The outlines have all been contributed. The slides have been contributed to by speakers all over the country. Really, we have this awesome curriculum council that helps us really put together some of the best content in the market, making sure that people are using not just best practices and trips that they've learned, but the kind of common best practices that we should all be doing in the Apple marketplace for both Mac and iOS. And that's what we're going to be doing at the Boot Camp event. One more thing that we're going to do, like last year, we have a newly updated Office for Mac Accredited Support Professional course and exam that'll take place the afternoon prior to every MacTech Boot Camp. And it's an opportunity for people to learn about Microsoft Office, learn about deployment, tips and tricks, troubleshooting, all kinds of things along those lines, and get accredited by Microsoft. It's a Microsoft accreditation that we help them implement in here, but it's a by Microsoft accreditation that will be something that people can put on their websites, on their business cards, their brochures, whatever is their leave behind for folks that they want to talk about the skills and things that they offer. This course and the fact that they get accredited will help consultants and techs serve their base better. So that's what we're doing at the boot camp events this year.
Neil, if I go to one boot camp, what the impression I'm getting is that this is the agenda for the boot camp, and if I go to Austin, I'll see basically the same thing I would see in San Francisco that I would see in D.C., perhaps with different instructors, but the same general things. Is that the way this works?
Absolutely. So what we do is we set a nationwide curriculum, a nationwide set of courses, and we set an outline and descriptions and things that we want people to learn. And that's really vetted by the Curriculum Council and helped put together by all these great people in the market. And they all come from different backgrounds. Some of them are ACNs and leadership in the ACN community, for those that know about that program from Apple. Other ones come from more sort of an enterprise bent on things or are consulting practice outside of it. Some of it are just deep technologists that understand what's going on. At the end of the day, what they all have in common is something really good to offer, something that's respected in the community, something that shows them as knowing what they're talking about. They help us vet the outline. The outline comes together. We hand those off to the speakers, who are generally from a region. They're right from that area. And we put an event around a bunch of these really great people in that region. What's really cool is that then you not only get the sort of national level of vetting for curriculum and sometimes some national speakers that go along with it, people that fly in for the event, but in addition to that, you learn who are some of the real experts and leaders in your particular region, and that's great for helping form new bonds with people that you may want to tap during the course of the year between now and the next MacTech event that you go to. And that's part of why the food thing is kind of important for us, is that we want people to sit down and break bread and get a chance to chat with each other and form relationships. And relationships are really a lot of what MacTech is about. You can learn some stuff online, you can go read stuff about it, but there's something different when you get to see it, when you get to ask questions, when you hear other people's questions and concerns, and then you get to discuss it afterwards, learn some great tools and services, maybe from some of the vendors that are out there that can really help a lot of these consultants do a lot better job with their consulting practice, have them organize better, have them offer better services. It's all about this total immersive experience for the day or day and a half, with the Microsoft part as well, that allows these MacTech events to go through it. But yes, when you go to Seattle, you'll see something very similar, to what you would see in Austin and whatnot. Some markets will have different bents to them. For example, say a Washington, D.C., you might get a little bit more of a take of what it's like to be in sort of the government sector and some of the comments that come around that kind of environment. If you're in something like Austin, you'll hear more some of the creative market ones, because that's what Austin is often about. And the list goes on and on as to every city has its own flavor to it.
Neil, it's fascinating to me that in the connected world we live in, all the conferences, and I'm thinking the Final Cut, or the Creative Pro Super Meets,
right.
MacTech, Macworld, iWorld, even CES in places are putting a much higher value on the social part of things, of that informal networking time, that informal connection time, because so much business and so much learning gets done in those times.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's as much about you want to learn. You want to learn from people that you respect. You want to see what's not only in documentation, but you want to see how people are dealing with problems in there. There's kind of that, somebody once said about software projects, the first half of the project gets 90% of the code done, and then the second half of the project is the second 90% of the code. And it's really kind of the problem set that's there is what it comes down to. And so the problems that people experience provide great lessons, great workarounds, and a lot of that you don't always see in documentation. You might see it on forums, you might see it in some of that type of stuff, but it's a lot to sift through. When you form a bond with somebody that is sharing an experience, that experience is something you may be able to use. And even if you can't use that, you'll get a sense as to what they know and what they've gone through. And you'll get a chance to go and ask them something. Maybe it's through an email or Twitter or Google Plus or whatever is your medium of choice. But basically, it's all about forming these relationships. And if you help them, they help you. We live in a wonderful community. It's very different from on the Windows side and from some of the other markets out there. The Apple community helps each other, and that's what makes our community really, really special, especially on the tech side.
And that's a banner that we wave constantly, because I really do believe it is different. And a couple comments that came out of the 30th anniversary of the Macintosh. Everybody on Twitter was tweeting, what was your first Macintosh? What was your first Macintosh? And I think I give Chris Breen credit. He was the one that said, what was your first PC? And, dead silence.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a whole different mindset. And I do think it carries over. 30 years later, it carries over to what we do today. And
right.
We enjoy getting together with each other, geeking out a little bit, getting to know each other, and helping each other solve the problems.
Right. And I think that there's just maybe that's one of the benefits of having always been sort of the underdog in the technology marketplace on the Apple side. That there was a love of the technology. In some cases, people really loved Apple or working for Apple and whatnot. But there was always this huge side of Windows and whatnot, and the Mac market in order to get along and for everything to work out as best as possible, there was a lot of sharing that happened, and a lot of the software that was out there, a lot of the ways that viruses were protected, or that we were protected against viruses in the very beginning, had to do with the way we worked together as a community in order to prevent that to happen. I'm talking about, a long time ago at this point, but, basically the way that our community operates, I think, has a lot to do with our love of platform, our love of the company, and then at the same point in time, not being the most prevalent one out there and needing to conquer that together.
And it keeps on going. It keeps on going. The way that you do it, though, I think is really interesting because, like you say, you have this consistent curriculum. You take the show to different cities, and that helps a lot of people in those local areas get to this event without having to travel. And obviously, then there are other people that travel because of it. But another thing that these events are noted for seems to be some of the extracurricular activities, especially the MacTech conference in November.
Yeah.
I think there were some people that went just because of the extracurricular activities, Neil.
I don't know if that's actually true. I think that people come primarily for our content that's there. I mean, conference is, for those of people that don't know, our MacTech Bootcamp series is focused specifically for consultants that are serving the small to medium-sized business market in Soho, or maybe they're on a support desk or, support within a larger organization that's there. MacTech Conference, on the other hand, is our IT Pro, enterprise, and even developer event. There's 2 tracks in that one. There's lots of things going on. There's breakout sessions. There's a lot of different activities. Whereas the bootcamp series is a single track. Everybody's in one room, the whole time, and it's one, very simple shared experience. At all of the events, within the limitations that we have of time, usually, we're trying to create an environment where people are meeting one another and talking to one another and spending time with the peers, even if they're people that they already know. It's to foster that bond and relationship. And the special activities that we do are about that. It's about having a good time and meeting somebody new in the process. It's about having a good time and having that shared experience that somebody has. These are the bases for relationships, and it's part of what gives our events a different kind of personality than a lot of other events. There's all kinds of great ways to do events. This is just the way we do it and the way that we like to do it.
Right.
And it reflects our personality.
Right. This edition of MacVoices is sponsored by Smile, the makers of the brand new PDF Pen Scan Plus for iPhone and iPad, as well as PDF Pen, PDF Pen Pro, PDF Pen for iPhone, PDF Pen for iPad, Text Expander Touch, and Disc Label. Find out more about all their great products at smilesoftware.com. It's 2014, and it's time to go paperless, or at least as paperless as you possibly can. The trouble with paperless is that you have to make a commitment in hardware costs before you can be sure it will work for you. Or, before you invest in that desktop scanner, you could start to explore the benefits of going paperless with PDF Pen Scan Plus from Smile. It's simple. Use your iDevice's camera to capture the document you want to save. PDF Pen Scan Plus is smart enough to find the edges of your document, so you're scanning just the document, not everything around it. Bang! Your document is on your iPhone or iPad. Or take an extra couple seconds to run optical character recognition on the scan, and you've got an editable, searchable PDF right there, waiting to be used with Smile's other mobile products, PDF Pen for iPad and PDF Pen for iPhone. The next issue with going paperless is storage of the documents. And your iPhone has limited storage, especially with all those photos and videos that you've been taking. The folks at Smile knew that, so they built in automatic uploading to iCloud, Dropbox, Evernote, Google Docs, Alfresco, or Box. Pick your favorite iCloud service, enter the credentials, and rest assured that your paperless document isn't going to take up space on your iPhone or iPad unless you really need to have it there. And of course, you can always access it or pull it back down from the cloud if the need arises. Now, if only Smile could develop a mobile paper shredder, we're all set. Find out if going paperless is for you with PDF Pen Scan Plus for iPhone and iPad, available for only $4.99 in the iTunes Store. And let me know how going paperless is working for you at chuck@macvoices.com, because I'm interested in your workflows. I might even learn something. Smile, the makers of PDF Pen Scan Plus and other world-class software titles. Thanks to Smile for sponsoring this edition of MacVoices. So what are the logistics of a MacTech boot camp? What time do you start? What time do you finish? Are you overnight? Those kind of things.
I laugh at the thing at conference. The nickname that I think everybody has for me is Mr. Logistics and whatnot. It's funny because I'm actually not the one that deals with a lot of it. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that are. I'm just the one that delivers the message as to what's going on. But basically, the boot camp series registration starts like 8:30ish or so. At 9 o'clock is when we do kind of I typically actually will keynote and have a keynote at every one of them where I will say, okay, this is what we're going to do for the day here. These are how these pieces weave together. This is why we've selected these topics. This is where we're going, here for the day. And then we'll have a series of sessions from 9 o'clock through lunchtime. And interspersed in there are some great vendors who are going to give us quick little glimpses as to what they're doing and how that would connect to a consultant, how that makes a consultant's life easier, how it allows them to make more money, how it allows them to be more profitable in everything that they're doing. At the same point in time, it also helps to support people with tools and stuff that they need. Then at lunch, people are able to spend time, eating with one another and talking with one another, but they're also able to talk to the vendors one-on-one during the lunch, and it gives them a chance to go and do that. And then in the afternoon, we return back to prizes and things along those lines. Sessions, and at the end, those we do raffles for all kinds of really cool prizes from the vendors and whatnot. But it's really a day packed of content where one session begins when the one before it ends. It's how much can we get into one day, but without making people just totally glaze over. That's a trick to do in and of itself, and I think we've been able to do that fairly effectively to do. So some food, some fun, some vendors, some learning. It's kind of all mixed together in a MacTech crockpot to see how we're going to make that all come together. Often what we find is that people get together, before or after the events. On top of it, there's the Microsoft accreditation the day prior, which even for those people that went last year, this year's content for that is updated with new information for folks to do. And there's a different accreditation, obviously, for each year. So all of these things come down to show up at 8:30, be done around 6 or so. We'll feed you in between, and you'll have a busy day.
And you have to ask, what kind of pricing is there for this? What does this cost, folks?
Pricing. Yep.
Yeah, there is that dirty little word.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the problems, with going into each region and whatnot, is that it's expensive to go to a hotel or a conference center to do. But we've been able to hone it down really nicely. Very often, training like this is $500 a day for a lot of places out there on it, especially if you're doing accreditation programs and whatnot. So what you're able to do with us, if you're on the early bird pricing or on the MacVoices listener link, which we'll give you guys so that you can give that to people, you'll get people will get $200 off, and they'll get a full year of MacTech magazine in print and MacTech magazine on iPad bundled together. If you were to buy that on the newsstand, the magazine subscription for the single issue copies is like $167, I think it is. So it's a lot of extra value in there. Plus, you get the early bird savings, and that brings it to $299. And so when you consider that, and then also as part of your registration, you get to go to the Microsoft Office accreditation the afternoon before. It's a day and a half for the $299, where normally training like this would be $500 or more a day.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for the link, and folks, it'll be in the show notes. If you're interested in a MacTech bootcamp, go and check it. Save some money.
Yep.
That said, though, I am kind of surprised at the price, because I would have thought it would have been more. With or without the discount, it would have been more. So you clearly have good working relationships with the facilities you go to, and I do have to ask, I'm curious, do you go back to the same facilities when you return to a given city? Do you always try to go back to the same ones, or do you move around?
Some yes and some no. It really kind of depends. If a facility does not allow us to deliver a high quality event, for somebody for the price that we want to, where we want to be able to hold this kind of pricing as best we can for our attendees, then they lose us as a customer. And they lose us, and they have to, just in the same way that we try to earn our reputation in what we do with every event that we do, every time we come back to a city all the way through, we need the venue to do the same thing with us, or we can't do our job for the community.
Yeah, that makes sense, and it's nice to hear, because there are times that some events slog back to the same place because everybody knows that it's a known commodity and the complaints are the same every year. And it's like, okay, so why try something new at least?
Yeah. We really make an effort to continually reinvent ourselves. So we tear things apart and put them back together. We do things a little bit differently for every event that certainly every conference that we do. And as we do these series of stuff, the bootcamp series, we look at, well, what worked and what didn't. Where can we do more of? What should we do less of? And it's based on the feedback and stuff. It's very interesting, because for most places that are asking for feedback from the community, they very often on a survey might only get 5% response or something along those lines. And it is very common for us to have half or more of our attendees give us concrete survey response kinds of answers and free comments in there as well for it. The fact that they work that hard at giving us feedback says a couple of things. First, it says that they think that we're listening, which we are, and we have a pattern of listening and implementing suggestions that people make. Second, it means that they're connecting with the event, and they feel some ownership, and they feel a good connection with the event. And third, they're looking forward to how they can come back, the following year and do something and be a part of it again. So those are all the things that we really like to see, and I'm as proud of those surveys as anything else, and the fact that people are partaking in it and allowing us to hear their ideas.
Yeah, whenever you get people coming back, that's huge. That's huge, because they're voting with their time, their money, and their feet.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure which of those three is more valuable at times, because time seems to be a big one. And when people come back to an event, spend the time to come back to an event, you've got a winner.
Well, it's funny. One of the proudest moments that I've had on all the events, once you've done stuff and you've raised the bar to a certain level, then the expectation is there, and you have to try to figure out how to keep meeting the bar in some way and doing it. But the very first MacTech conference, at the end of the conference, there was a series of thank yous and to individual people who worked their tail off to make things really special. And then there was a moment that was just about the conference, not about the individuals, but about the conference as a whole. And the entire room stood up and gave a standing ovation to the conference. That was one of the coolest things I had ever seen, because it meant that we connected with people in the right way. We gave them an experience that they wanted. We gave them an out of the spot, an out of their normal experience zone kind of experience, and that was something that they reacted well to. So we're going to keep trying to do that every single time we do an event.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. That has to make you feel good.
It did. It really does. And, and I think back to the comments we get after every event, and the people glowing after, MacTech conference. They were, like kids in a candy store. And that's what a wonderful environment for people to be immersed in learning and connecting and socializing and building out, everybody that they know. So I think that, that comes down to with everything we say about the MacTech events. It's the people, the content, and the experience. And if we do those things, then we're doing our job.
I'm not going to quiz you here as to when, because you did good on the cities, but I'm not going to quiz you to dates and all. So where can we send folks to, they can see the date where MacTech is coming to their city or a city near them?
Yeah. Well, I actually, on a very, very quick rundown, will tell you that Seattle is in February, Atlanta is in March, Austin is in April, Denver is at the end of April, Boston is in May, Washington, D.C. is in June, Chicago is in July, San Francisco is in August, Toronto is in September, and then, of course, MacTech Conference is in Los Angeles in November. All of those dates are announced. If they go to tech.com/bootcamp, They'll see an about page. They'll see, links for, cities and dates, session descriptions. They'll see links for the individual cities. So if the speakers have been announced for that cities, obviously the further out they are, the less likely the speakers are announced at this point. But all the information about the individual cities and whatnot, the venues tend to come online about a month prior, or a few weeks prior to the event. If sometimes sooner, depends on the venue. But those are the dates that they're locked in, and they're being planned out, and we're implementing as we go along on each one of them.
Great. Well, folks, go check that out. Neil, I should ask, though, because I know someone will want to know, if someone wants to volunteer to be an instructor at MacTech, how do they go about that?
On the MacTech website, and actually on the bootcamp website, there's information about how to apply to be a speaker. And there's actually a sessions chair in every one of the cities who helps line up the speakers for that particular region. Obviously, they fill up fairly quickly. We have speakers volunteering all the way out through the September and even November events at this point. So if people are interested, they should do so quickly. But there is basically a speaker application form, and you tell us, just fill out your name, check off the events that you're interested in, the topics that you're interested in, and then we take it from there.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's another great part of this community, and it's more obviously oriented for developers and those kind of folks, but they're the ones that are creating all the apps that we all use.
Yeah, and to be clear, just so people understand this correctly in here, for MacTech Conference, there is a developer track, and the IT Pro and the Enterprise track that's there. For MacTech Bootcamp, it's not the developer audience there. It's not. In fact, we're not doing anything developer-oriented there. It's for the consultants who are serving the small to medium-sized business, and of course, the people on support desks in their organization. So, if you're responsible for providing tech support for other folks, that is the event, for you, and you will learn a whole lot about doing so. So, those guys that basically are making their living supporting other people, that is who belongs at a MacTech Bootcamp, whether it's iOS or on the Mac side, as long as it's an Apple technology or you're trying to learn it from an Apple point of view, that's what we're doing.
And thank you for correcting me, because I'm glad, that I tend to get stuck in the way it was with the MacTech conference, and now it's two very different things.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Very good.
So that's what we're doing. And, other than that, all else is we do so many other things in there, and those things are continuing to go along just in the way that they have before. But the events are what's news right now, and you learn more about some of the other MacTech things that we're doing either on our website or when we see you at the events. We like to establish relationships ourselves with people at all kinds of events, and it's fun to be able to meet as many great people, as many great speakers and attendees as we have, because at the end of the day, it's all just community.
Yeah, absolutely. Folks, again, please go check it out. I think you will find something that you are interested in, especially if you are, as Neil said, supporting other people and you fit into that particular slot. And if not, hang around and wait for MacTech conference to come in November and see if that suits you. One of the two is bound to.
Yep.
Neil, it's great to see you. We got to shake hands briefly at CES. I'm sure I'll see you at Macworld iWorld, and who knows, maybe I'll show up at a MacTech bootcamp one of these days.
Yeah, well, with this many events in this many cities, we're coming to one near you, or everybody, we're coming to near one somewhere. So.
Exactly. Hey, it's great to talk to you. We'll talk to you again soon.
I appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you.
Sounds good. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices, the talk of the Mac community. I hope that you get to see Neil and his minions at the MacTech boot camps. It's well worth your time. Until the next time, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, app.net, Google+, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, the MacVoices Dispatch, to stay up to date with all the latest MacVoices news from our front page or at MacVoices.com/newsletter. Advertising and sponsorships handled by Backbeat Media at BackbeatMedia.com.